Do I sound as bad to you as I sound to me? We'll take a look at that question next on this week's Dewey's Directive. Welcome to this week's Dewey's Directive. I am Bill Deweese from VoiceOverRevolution.com. A question that I am frequently asked when I'm working with a student is this: do I sound as bad to you as I do to myself? To which I always answer, oh, worse. I'm only kidding. It's a human reaction. I guess more than anything else, I want to put your mind at ease because almost everybody says and asks me that question, and there's a reason for that, and I want to explain that to you. There are two reasons that we typically sound worse to ourselves than we do to other people. Number one is we really don't have a true sense of what we sound like when we initially get involved in voiceovers because most of us have not listened extensively to our voice in a recording. It's really an issue of recalibrating the way that we hear ourselves. So the way we grew up listening to ourselves is through our voice that resonates through the skeleton, the bone structure in our head. So what we hear sounds different to us in the way it's heard by others that aren't us, because they have the opportunity to hear our voice straight through our vocal cords, our throat, and into the air. Whereas our voice, when we hear it, bounces around through all of the structure, and then we hear it, so it sounds different to us. That's why it's very common when somebody hears a recording of their voice for the first time to say, oh, I hate my voice. As a matter of fact, that's another thing I hear frequently from people. They want to become a voice talent, but they'll frequently say, oh, I absolutely hate my voice. And it's because once they begin listening to recordings of themselves, it sounds completely different from the way that they perceive that they sound. Now, they may sound different than they perceive, but it doesn't mean you sound worse than you thought that you sounded. So again, just understand that the first issue is physical. Your voice is bouncing around and the resonance through your head sounds different to you than it sounds to other people. So you have to recalibrate and get used to hearing yourself recorded. Secondly, there's more of a psychological issue involved when we hear ourselves. We tend to compare our voice to what we've heard, to specific voices. When I get involved in radio, I grew up wanting to get in radio. So there were people that I emulated, people that I admired, people that I wanted to sound like. And so early on, I wanted to sound like them because I felt like I didn't sound like anybody. I didn't sound like anybody. To me, Bill Deweese was not somebody I had ever heard before. So to me, I needed to change that to be like somebody else. When you first get involved in voiceovers, you don't sound like anybody else. And we tend to compare. We've heard this voice, that voice. We like this commercial. We love this movie trailer. But we don't sound like any of those people. So therefore, we really don't sound like anybody that we're familiar with. We perceive that as being bad. It's just, keep in mind, nobody is looking for another fill in the blank, whoever the voice talent is. You have to show the world who you are, who your true personality is, what you're like within the context of a script. The world has yet to discover who you are. So don't squash the dream by comparing yourself to somebody else and feeling that you're terrible because you don't sound like what you think that you should sound like. I hope this is making sense because this kills more dreams than perhaps anything else right out of the gate. Somebody hears a recording of their voice. The initial reaction is, oh, I sound terrible. Well, no, you sound different than you thought you sounded. Doesn't mean terrible. The other thing is, well, I don't sound like anybody that I've heard before, so therefore I must sound terrible. Not sounding like somebody else is a good thing because ideally, you're not doing impersonations of other people. You're learning to be yourself. I say learning because it is a process. One of the hardest things to do when you get behind a microphone is to be yourself. And that's where a good coach can guide, direct, reflect back to you what they hear you doing to help you understand what it means to express your own personality when you're behind the microphone. So don't get frustrated. When you hear yourself and you think, oh my gosh, I sound terrible, chances are you don't sound terrible. It's just the way you perceive yourself to sound. Don't let that stop you before you even get started. I do wish you great success, and I want to encourage you to pursue the dream. Make sure that you get proper guidance and coaching, and you'll soon learn that your voice is a voice that's worth being heard. Wish you all the best. I'll talk to you very soon.